Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jennifer, and today I have a tool to share with you that can help you measure how are you treating yourself, how are you treating others, and also a measurement for how are you being treated in the relationships in your life. We can call this video a part 3 to our abuse-free life videos. I promised I would give you this tool in the last video, so here it is. And I'm gonna walk through a little exercise with you. And then I'm gonna share with you a variety of ways this will be applicable, and you'll be able to think of that yourself and many more ideas of how we can use this to um, measure maybe circumstances that we were confused of, were we in the wrong? Or maybe even as a child having a memory, I've had someone think, well, maybe it really was my fault or what was going on in that situation. And this list helps measure those things. That was a little vague. It will get clearer as we do this. So, what I would like to share with you involves a piece of paper, and please feel free to watch the video and walk it through with me. But I hope that you will have your own piece of paper with these list of words on. I want you to have a hard copy of this so you can watch the video a second time and go through with me and make these lists of words, or you can just remember how to do it and go make it one of these pieces of paper for yourself. So I'll sit with somebody in a session and we'll go through and come up with these lists of words together. And that's really helpful because sometimes I don't think of all of the real great ones in these descriptive columns that we're going to make here. But I did the best that I could on my own and wrote out some lists. But you'll probably think of your own that are relevant to your relationships or your experiences, or even how you can think about how you relate to yourself. So, what we're going to do on the piece of paper, the first thing we're going to do is, and I have messy handwriting, so bear with me, is just take a piece of paper and draw 2 lines. And we're going to make 3 columns. And there's going to be a critical parent column, a healthy adult column in the middle, and a needy child column on the other side. So we've got these 3 columns with the 2 lists. And then we're going to go and just fill in the words, which I did before I pressed record. So I'm going to read these to you. And I want you to first think about inside your own head how you deal with yourself, and maybe how you learn to deal with yourself by how you were treated in your childhood, possibly. So when we say a critical parent voice, it might literally have been that critical parent in your life, but most of us have that voice in our head that's trying to get us to do stuff, or saying we're stupid or we should have done it that way, or criticizing us. And so these are the words that we're going for. And we're going for a bit, a bit extreme. Maybe you haven't experienced it quite like this, but for the sake of the exercise in the list, these are the kind of words. So here's what I came up with. And I'm just going to show you. I've got my list of words here, and we're going to start with that critical parent. And then I'll hold the whole thing up and you can get a screenshot maybe after I list these 3 columns of words. So we're going to think of these words for a critical parent. So I've got harsh, scary, mean, judgmental, punishing, unpredictable, inconsistent, demeaning, self-righteous, cold, demanding, unreasonable, strict, unloving, rigid, belittling, confusing, hard to please, cruel, lack of empathy, frustrated, angry. And some of those are similar to each other, and it's not in any particular order. But you get the idea of the feel of what that kind of interaction would feel like. And then the next column I do is the opposite side of the page, the needy child column. There we go. And we're going to think of, dealing with maybe the parts of us that are wounded inside. And I've also listed some positive words that our child that come, from our little inner child parts or our childlike and our qualities of children. And when we reach our little inner child parts, we also access these positive things like resilience and playfulness and curiosity. But here's my list for the needy child column: scared, lonely, vulnerable, wounded, confused, demanding, tiring, playful. I might even put tired on there too. Playful, fun, curious, resilient, hurt, shy, eager to please, lovable, impatient, irresponsible, stubborn, sad, unsafe, alone, and small. And you can see those were quite random and in no particular order, but we're just thinking of these 3 ways of being. And now we're going to go to the middle column, the healthy adult column, where I want you to imagine, go back a little bit. Imagine the most healthy person. I know I talked about Mr. Rogers, but he's one I think of. And this is just the most healthy way of being. And so let's describe this so you can really get a feel of what connection with this kind of person would feel like. So here's the words I came up with: kind, warm, loving, safe, nurturing, strong with good boundaries, wise, flexible, forgiving, consistent, reasonable, peaceful, mindful, empathetic, wise, trustworthy, honest, predictable. I just thought of patient. I don't have that written on the list, but patient, self-reflective, responsible, humble, grateful. Ooh, a good one with self-reflective is accountability, accountable. So those are 3 lists of words that I want to just give you the ability to create a feeling of what it would feel like to be in relationship with a person acting that way and being that way. And we're going to think of this in 2 ways: with ourselves and with others. So with ourselves, on the back of the page, and when you make one of these for yourself, and I'm not good at drawing circles. They're not great, but there's 2 circles representing, I forgot to write this on here, 2 ways of being. And so one of them is going to be before healing. And then the next little circle is going to be an example of when we're more healed. We're always on our journey for healing. But I'd like you to look at what our goal is. So before healing, and I bet you can imagine, stuff like this maybe going on in your head where there's a wounded child of you that doesn't want to do anything or is upset or impatient. And then the critical parent voice is like, harsh and critical and punishing. And so you just imagine inside the head that those 2 parts occupy most of the space and are battling it out. And then the little tiny healthy adult voice is over here. And what is our goal? Our goal is to be mindful and aware and notice these things so that we can cultivate. And quite literally, we've talked about neuroplasticity and mindfulness. And by just practicing something, you are strengthening those neural pathways and actually building that in your mind. And what do we want our own minds to look like? And by the way, I've heard mental health described this way, and I love this: that mental health is our own relationship with our very own mind. that we are a soft place to land. It doesn't mean we don't have anxiety come up or sad feelings come up, but the relationship with ourselves is the healthy adult voice. And so, what does it look like? Well, the healthy adult voice is the larger part, that script going on inside of our minds, and it loves and tends for equally the critical adult voice, critical parent voice, and the needy child voice. So here's the pictures again. I'm a little embarrassed to share my 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 art, and I'm just gonna hold up these words one more time here. So what are we going for? The healthy adult voice. Now I am going to say something radical too. That when we talk about living an abuse-free life, and we can now really imagine these 3 columns, you deserve to be in relationships and be interacting with people who are coming from the place of that healthy adult column at all times. And we can also measure inside of ourselves, am I treating people this way? Now, this goes back to the nervous system, because are we caring for ourselves so that our nervous system is regulated and we aren't reactive? That's certainly going to make it easier to come from this place. Now, none of us are perfect. And in relationships, things happen, and maybe there's difficult conversations that come from some frustration or anger or different things. But when we really want to measure this, though, the goal to strive for, even when problem solving, even when addressing hard things, would be that we aren't coming from either of those wounded places that will often activate the opposite wounded place in the other person. You know, I see a lot of couples that one of them's taken on the role of that critical parent, and one's taken on the role of that wounded child, that needy child. I've sat with couples, and remember, when I'm in a therapy session, I don't want to sound hypocritical, because I have my own issues and my own hard relationships that I've gone through and gotten out of and learned from, and always striving for this. And I certainly am not even perfect with this, but for the most part, I want to share with you, because I've made that hard journey of getting out of difficult, sometimes abusive relationships, that my relationships really are largely that middle column. You know, I've got so much of my own healing that I'm still working on. Trauma will still come up, anxiety, painful memories, but I think I've done a pretty good job of cultivating that soft place to land inside myself too. So I just want you to know, if I can do it, you can do it. And I want to be here to help and encourage you. And I'm really lucky. My children are all adults, and they're just gentle, reasonable souls. So we can interact with each other from that middle column, which is, I feel really lucky. And I know I'm the one that's had to work on it the most, especially with my history of trauma and having those wounded parts inside of myself. So in your relationships, just measure this. This is the goal. Oh, I was about to say, before I said I don't want to sound hypocritical, I've had couples and they're sitting in front of me interacting from this, and I'll draw this out for them and be like, if there could be a goal of tending to your own wounded parts, that it's going to be more productive to have a regulated nervous system, and just try to strive to be, calm and reasonable, respectful. Oh, I can't believe that one isn't on there either. So we want to add that word. That's a big, important one for that middle column. Respectful, patient, accountable. It isn't always easy. And this is one of those things, like all the tools I'm going to share with you and all of my videos are just little puzzle pieces that we're putting things together. Take what resonates, leave the rest behind. But I hope that this was helpful. And what I wish for you is that kindness. And once we're grown up, we are the ones who are ultimately responsible to create that world for ourselves, first and foremost. And then we draw in those relationships, and the ones that aren't that way, we work to change them or set boundaries in them, which will be part of our continued journey together. So thank you so much for letting me share this with you. And I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.